All right, good everybody. Welcome to another podcast of the One with Greg Riley. So today I've got I've been following Oscar for a while. We've followed him for quite some time, looking at what he does, and I'm very, very impressed with him because I know people who work in the high ticket space. And I've done a lot of their courses and that, and Oscar's one of those people who I probably from afar have respected for a while. And I thought I'll reach out to him and say, mate, any chance when you want to be on the podcast to talk about high ticket sales and what it takes to get there, what's the difference and the caliber of people you deal with. And he went, yes. I went, oh shit, thank you. So Oscar, thanks buddy for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it, Greg.
Pleasure. So tell us a bit about yourself. What is it you do? How did you get into that? Let's give us a bit of a background of who you are and why you're good at what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a fairly simple man. I grew up and my mum always told me I could do anything I ever wanted. And they were not just words that she would say to me. She would truly support me. So before I went on we were talking just earlier, I went on The Voice Australia. But many years before I went on The Voice, I was auditioning for Australian Idol. And the auditions for Australian Idol, you'd have to wait in line overnight. So literally the whole night.
Wow.
From let's say 9 p.m. and you're waiting till about 9 a.m. the next day to audition, and my mum would just stand with me the whole time, like the whole night. And back then when I was young, when I was like 17, 18, or probably younger actually, probably about 16, I didn't realize the sacrifice that she was making until I had my own kids. And
Yeah.
and only recently it really dawned on me, like, holy moly, like my mum just really implanted into me that I could do anything that I wanted to do and that I shouldn't set limits on myself and that I could achieve anything that I wanted to achieve. And so, very fast forward, many years later, I found myself in a sales career. In a sales career, it's not something that people aspire to do. They don't say, when I grow up, I want to be in sales. I fell into it out of necessity. I ended up working in an outbound call center and, getting sworn at a lot of the time on commission only. This was, probably 19 years ago or so. And, getting sworn at by small fish and chip shops owners because I was trying to sell them landlines for one of Telstra's resellers. Ended up in the inbound call center within Optus. And that's where I really started to, 6 weeks of training on sales. And, when I hit the phones for the first time in the inbound call center, I set the record at 216% of my target, which was just unheard of at that time. And it was because I was hustling. I wanted to learn. I was really hungry, really driven, and just really enjoyed it's really the people business. Sales is the people business. And that's what a lot of people neglect, especially with the kind of snake oil salesmen and all the snake oil sales that you've got out there of pressuring and manipulating people. That's not to say that I haven't done my fair share of bad things in my sales career. We won't delve too much into that. But you know what changed for me, Greg, one day, and we talked about high ticket sales a little bit. It was during the sales training at Optus in the inbound call center. We're all young guys, we're all just, trying to make a living and trying this new career, sales. And there was a lady by the name of Wen Smallwood who came in to the training room, and she was in enterprise sales, and she managed some of the largest accounts for Optus. And she came in and she presented with this eloquence. She was wearing a nice suit. She was really sophisticated. And I just looked at her and I thought, I have to be in that role. That is the role that I want. And so every single day when I came to work, I was trying to figure out, how do I get myself into that role? And then, 11 months in the call center, I got promoted into enterprise, doing more customer service type of stuff. But then I worked really hard. And even to the point where one of my teammates said to me, Oscar, don't work so hard. Don't work overtime. Don't, give so much to the clients because the targets are unrealistic and you're never going to hit the targets and you're making us all look bad. So that was the mindset of failure. That was the mindset of being small. That was the mindset of playing small. And I just wanted to play big. I wanted to play really big. And so within 4 months within that role, I then got promoted to one dedicated account working on, it was Pfizer Australia, where the account executive had just done a multi-million-dollar deal and they needed someone to come in and manage that account. And I did that. And then I did that for about 12 months and then got promoted full blown into executive sales support. managing the enterprise accounts as kind of a 2IC. And then I was probably in that role for about a year, and some scandals happened, and everyone got moved on pretty much, and I was left there looking around. There was probably 5 senior account executives on that team. All of them got moved off, and they needed someone to step up, and that was me. So, an opportunity presented itself. I took it by the horns, and I quickly became one of the highest performing salespeople in that role, selling into enterprise accounts like Red Bull, Electrolux, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And, a lot of people talk about, high ticket sales, and they're talking about, $5,000. To me, $5,000 is still low ticket, right? I'm talking about the realm of multi-million dollar deals. That's the realm that I've worked in for the last roughly 16 years, and I just love it. So that's a little bit about me.
So tell us a bit about the different mindsets. Like you mentioned there, like $5,000, and I sort of agree. Like it sounds a bit wanky, but my one-on-one client starts at $25,000, and my low ticket starts at $5,000 for my mastermind programs for 6 weeks. Tell us about the mindset of the people who buy high ticket items versus somebody who will continue to buy low tickets or free stuff.
Greg, there comes a point in time in an individual's growth journey where they find themselves in a position where they need to spend money. And they need to spend money to either mitigate some level of risk. They need to spend money in order to drive and propel growth. They need to spend money to free up time. So they need to hire additional talent. And the mindset that I find that a lot of people struggle with is that they keep thinking to themselves, I will pay for this when I can afford it. But the truth of the matter is, the thing that people need to understand is that the market works on the law of value. People think that we're trading dollars and cents. That's not what we're trading. We're actually trading value. And so when you realize as an individual that we're actually trading value in the open marketplace, we need to think to ourselves, where is it that I produce the highest level of value? Let me give you a quick example.
Yeah.
An individual can work out their hourly value to the market by dividing their annual income by about 2040, roughly. That's roughly the amount of working hours in a year. So if somebody's saying to themselves, I'm going to hire this person when I can afford it, and that's a $10 per hour task, then you're only producing that $10 of value into the marketplace. And so the income hits a roadblock. And so the people that are really successful and the people that have got money to spend and willing to spend it, elevate that mindset to go, if I don't spend this money, then it's going to distract me from the things that I'm really good at. It's going to distract me from my strengths. It's going to take me away from producing a lot of value in the marketplace. And so if we stay, doing the free things and, not paying people, and I mean, I can't, in the world of sales, Greg, I can't tell you how many people, I must say no to at least 15 people per week that want to grow their sales team or want someone to sell for them, but they want to do it commission only, or they want to do it under partnership and they don't want to pay for people. Everybody's trying to do that. It's not the way to grow a business. So if you want growth that is exponential, you have to pay to play. That's the law of the marketplace. And I think that's where people get themselves stuck. They get stuck playing small, and so they just get stuck in their little box and they never grow.
I love that word, pay to play. I'm going to use that. That's what the top people get. That's what the people at the top end who are highly successful understand. If I want to be in the game, I've got to play to be in the game. And a lot of people that I see who want to be in the game aren't even close to being in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think? So tell us about, what are the qualities of somebody that plays the game? What are some of the qualities of people that actually see value in playing or paying to play?
There's a few things that really float to mind in terms of being hyper successful. So number one, and I just released a video about this last week, but number one, they've got to be quite bullish. You know, they have to be the type of person that really backs themselves, believes in themselves, and has this undying spirit that anything is possible. They have to have a level of resilience. So in I just released a book, $1 Million Deals, and I talked about 11 vitality points to build sustainability in a high performance role. And one of the things that I talk about deeply is resilience, because the life of a business owner, the life of a high performance person is really difficult. You know,
It is.
people want to live the life, but they're not willing to pay the price. And there is this huge price that comes with success. I mean, even look at you and I, what we're doing here, Greg. You know, it's 8:30 p.m. here for us both. We're just willing to go that extra mile and do a little bit more to add that extra value to the marketplace. Other people that want to stay in their comfort zones aren't going to drive that level of success. So you've got to be very bullish and very ambitious towards your goals. And it's not that if someone doesn't have ambition today, they can't be ambitious tomorrow. That is the beauty of neuroplasticity and the beauty of building new habits and the beauty of building new belief systems, that we can actually change the program that runs within our head. A lot of us think that our thoughts are who we are. Our thoughts are not who we are. Our thoughts are just random thoughts, and everybody has the same thoughts. It's those people that are able to cull down the thoughts to central themes around success, to have a great level of self-awareness and self-confidence. I'll tell you one quote that I just absolutely love from Oprah. She says there's some video out there floating around where she says, you know, some people have accused me of being full of myself. And she says, I love being full of myself. What else am I going to be full of if I'm not full of myself? Like, you know, people don't understand that in this life, we're told to follow a linear path, to go to school, get an education, go to university, get a job, buy the house, have the kid, get the dog, like, you know, and we're always looking for that future in order to feel that success. And what happens is most people live their life waiting to feel that success, waiting to feel that gratitude, waiting to feel that joy, realizing that at the end of the journey that they missed the whole thing because they were looking at some future that is never going to happen. We need to make sure that we're living for the present and we're living for today. So they're just a couple of things, you know, a couple of key themes that I find that the successful people are doing that the unsuccessful aren't. You know, unsuccessful people start looking at one of my business partners, Marco. He likes the word dogmatic. A lot of people look at the word in a dogmatic way or a really skeptical way. One of the managing directors that I worked with recently, he used to say openly, my role is to be a skeptic. And it's actually like, no, your role is not to be a skeptic. Your role is to look at the world of the realm of possibility. Your role is to look at doing things in a fundamentally different way than they've ever been, because that's where the growth comes from. Your role is not to sit there and be skeptical about everything and everyone and think that people aren't doing their work and that people need to come in the office because otherwise they're not working. That's not what your role is. Your role is to be wildly optimistic, to be realistic and know that struggle is going to come as part of the journey and you're going to have to suffer with that. And there's another quote that I love that I'll leave you with, Greg, by Jim Rohn. I love Jim Rohn, and he says, "Don't wish for things to be easier."
Love him.
Love Jim. He says, "Don't wish for things to be easier. Wish for you to be better." And I just every day, even written on my wall here, is that I'm 1% better daily. I learn every day, 1% better daily.
Well, that's brilliant. I and I think sometimes we think, and I love how you've talked there. You've spot on with exactly that. But I also sometimes think that we think that these people don't also have insecurities. They just deal with them differently, don't they?
You know,
Stuff like that.
Yeah, we talked earlier about pay to play, right? And paying the price to be a high performance person. What happens is that things get harder. The more you climb up the ladder, the harder things get. Like the more difficult they are, the more stress you feel, the more negative emotion, because you're playing at a higher stake. I used to train in
Mm.
organizations. There's this thing that everybody's talking about, which is psychological safety, right? So
Yeah.
let me express psychological safety like this. If I tell you, Greg, if I put a plank of wood, let's say it's this thick, you can easily walk across it with two legs. If I lay that plank of wood on the grass and I ask you to take 10 steps across that plank of wood towards me, you'll get on that plank of wood, you'll walk through, no problem at all. Now I'm going to take that same plank of wood, I'm going to put it 20 stories up between two buildings with nothing in between. And I'm going to ask you, Greg, can you walk across this plank of wood? And then all of a sudden, all these fears of death, of like, what happens if I slip? What if the wind pushes me off? You're going to start thinking about your family and all the things you've got to lose. That's what being a high performance person is all about. It's learning to walk across that plank of wood at 20 stories up, but being calm and collected as if that plank of wood's on the floor. Because you think to yourself, well, the worst that could happen is the worst that could happen. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to make peace with that. I'm going to continue to walk because this is my path and this is my journey and this is what I want to do. And I'm driven and I'm ambitious to do it. But the people that are more successful have more to lose, meaning more stress, more insecurity, more self-doubt. But what they do is, and what we do is have an ability to overcome all of that and to continue to blaze our path forward.
Well, that's great. Well put, mate, because the fear's still there. And like you say, it's actually even more because you're putting yourself way out of your comfort zone and the stakes are much, much higher. And the fall is a lot further from 20 stories up versus on the ground as well too, right? But tell us, let's just go a little bit of a tangent here. Tell us about the mindset around high ticket sales. And quite often, because a lot of my work is just referral based, which is a little bit different because when people come and see me, they've already spoken to somebody that has already seen me, so it's a bit different. But how is it different to selling high ticket to selling low ticket stuff? What's some of the, because people kind of say, and I get this because of the people I speak to, is that throwing in more stuff is not beneficial. Throwing in bonus after bonus after bonus after bonus of all this stuff is not what high ticket wants. They want quick, fast, efficient, show me the one process, get me there as quickly as possible, more efficiently and better, and not necessarily cheaper, but I'm paying you for the one thing, time, because I can't get time back. And I'm already a busy person and I'm paying you for efficiency. So sort of tell me about, the difference in selling to a high ticket person.
Yeah, so I alluded to earlier this whole snake oil sales industry, that's really born out of manipulation and pressure. That doesn't work with a high performance person because a high performance person sees through it, and the high performance person, just for those listening, are the people that are spending the 25 grand, 100 grand, million, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So all of those tricks and manipulation tactics don't work with that type of person. And so in order to be a high, I love the word high ticket, but let's call it high ticket. In order to be a high ticket person, we need to be able to get down to the business value because, and the only way we can do that is through listening. So if I'm coming into you and you're looking to spend money and I'm like telling you all these things and I got this 3-week program and I got this and I got that and we get this bonus of this, the person in their mind is thinking, you know what, I'm already so busy. You're going to make me more busy. And I don't want that. So the more that you're trying to talk, in essence, the more you're unselling the deal. And so I learned this in the art of multi-million dollar deals is that because when you're selling a multi-million dollar solution, there are 4 Bibles worth of information I could tell you. And if I sit down with you and I tell you the 4 Bibles worth of information, you're going to check out and you go, this is too hard. I need to be able to figure out what it is that's important to you. And I need to be able to just do a few things, a few key things. I think, and I was actually taking some notes on this, I think it was yesterday. So number 1, people buy when they have a sense of trust. So if I trust that you can provide the thing I'm looking for, then it's easy. I don't need to go into all the features and benefits, and I don't need to give you all the bonuses and throw in this thing and that thing. All I
Steak
need to
knives.
do is, sorry?
Steak knives.
Yeah. Throwing in all, steak knives. So what I need to do is to get down to the level where you and I understand each other, and you have a level of trust that I can do what it is that I say I can do, and then I can, in essence, sell a more effective high ticket service. The other thing that is important is the urgency aspect. So a really good high ticket individual will ask the tough questions in order to understand the urgency. So a lot of times when I'm doing high ticket sales, I'm asking about decision making. And the thing that people get wrong, and the thing that I train from a sales perspective, is that we shouldn't think about sales as our role is to sell the thing. Our role is professional decision support. And so if I stop thinking about, am I going to close this deal? Am I going to close this deal? Am I going to close this deal? We've got to think to ourselves, has this person made a decision yet? And if the decision's no, that's okay, because I'm going to go and spend my time and effort on something else that's going to produce better results. But a lot of people give up before they even get to a decision because the client ghosts them, and they're like, "Oh, I coach a lot of sales teams, and so the thing that I'm always talking, people are always talking about getting ghosted, right?" And so what we need to do is go, how can I support the customer to make that decision, whether it's a yes or a no? And so a lot of, if you look at the research, it takes between 8 or 9 touch points in order for a client to make a sale, in order for a client to buy something. So a lot of people give up before they even get to that point. A lot of people fail to build that value. A lot of people fail to build that trust because they're talking too much and talking about steak knives and features and benefits, and they completely miss the point.
So then, again, go a little tangent here. How important is intuition? Because you can have sales scripts and all that kind of stuff, but I've seen some brilliant, people, and I think they're highly intuitive as well too. How important is tapping into that kind of way to be able just to feel your way through a sales or a partnership process? Is that where you kind of find that really, really good salespeople come from?
I feel that there's a step before intuition.
Yeah.
And the step before intuition is two things. There's knowledge, or let's call it an amalgamation between knowledge and experience. So if I have an abundant level of knowledge and abundant level of experience, meaning I failed a bunch of times and I know what doesn't work, it means that my intuition gets a lot better. So what I encourage all salespeople to do is to have a framework. The framework that I teach is called the Empower Framework. But to have a framework so that you've got the knowledge and you've got the experience, and then the intuition's a lot more effective. So for me, someone that's been doing it for 17 years, my level of intuition is huge because there's an enormous amount of deals that I've closed. There's an enormous amount of deals that I've lost. And so my intuition or my pattern recognition is really dialed in. But even I'm always refining my process. I'm refining the questions that I ask. I'm analyzing with metacognition how sales conversations went, and I'm role playing how I can position my products and services in a new way to increase conversion. So yeah, I think intuition is really important, but we should not neglect the fact that we need the knowledge and we need the experience.
Agree completely. Now you mentioned before about listening, and you mentioned before people on there who are constantly trying to sell the features and benefits. And one of my mentors, he may listen to this, but I'm at John Street, magnificent at what he does in copywriting and business building and that. He was very, very, down the same line of listening is your superpower. If you've got a superpower in listening, you that is so important because most people are trying to ram it down your throat to try and sell. So I've got to sell it to you. But if you have this ability to listen, it's also a confidence thing as well too. Is that correct?
Just checking you can hear me because it's frozen for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
I can hear you.
Yeah, and I heard the question, and I love that you touched on confidence because I was going to touch on that as well. So one of the things that I had to grapple in my career. So I mentioned that I rose up the ranks, and I was still a fairly young guy. I was one of the youngest, if not either the second or the first youngest senior accounting executive at Optus, right? And one of the things that I battled with deeply was insecurity. So me as a roughly 25-year-old guy who's doing multi-million-dollar deals, I'm dealing with 60-year-old CISOs, chief information officers, information security officers, and we're doing networking drinks, and we bring them out to parties, and we entertain. And me as a young 25-year-old guy that's sitting there with a 60-year-old guy who's more sophisticated than I'll ever be because he's got multiple degrees, and I just have no interest in going to university. He's eloquent. He's very button up every shirt type of guy. Really, me, I'm the creative. I'm a bit of a nomad. I'm a bit, I'm not your average executive, right? The classic executive loves to sit down and cross the T's and dot the I's and do the exams and write the research paper. Like I dislike all that stuff. So here I am as a 25-year-old guy trying to entertain this client, having social anxiety, going, oh my God, I'm younger this guy. This guy's going to find out that I'm not interesting. I've got nothing to say to this person. Am I going to get judged? Wow, this person has much more status than me. What am I going to say? This guy's not going to have a good time. And the internal mental chatter was just going wild all the time. Now, the positive side of that was that my reaction to that negative emotion was to get the customer to talk more, because I learned that someone's favorite topic is themselves. And so when I would feel that anxiety, I would ask questions about that individual, and he'd tell me about his lake house, and he'd tell me about, farming, and he'd tell me about the wine that he likes and the holidays that he'd have. And so we ended up having a good time because I was able to just focus on him, because I didn't want him to ask questions about me. Even at that point in my career, I hadn't really developed a good sense of self, meaning I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I know what my values are. I know what my principles are. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. Like, I didn't have a really solid relationship with myself at that point. But, fast forward many, many years later, and I've developed that relationship with myself, and I've read over 100 books, and I've learned, what I stand for as a human being, and the things that I love, and the things that ignite me, and the things that make me passionate, and being unafraid to stand authentically as myself. And so where you asked the question about, listening, right? So what a lot of sales executives fail to understand is that when can you give me 1 second? I just need to cough.
Go for it.
Sorry about that. What they fail to understand is that the person that is talking is the weakest person in the conversation. The person that does the most listening is the authority. And you can see this when you go to the doctor. The doctor isn't coming in and going, oh, I've got this new medication from this thing, and it helps reduce your blood pressure. And they're not going to do that, because, again, they've got the four Bibles full, or whatever you want to call it, a whole library full of information. Imagine if you just went to a doctor's office and they were just telling you all the stuff they know. You would just go, this is not relevant to me. So the doctor has a good way to go, what's the problem? How long has that been a problem for? Let me listen, let me put that thing on the stethoscope on your chest, and let me hear you cough, cough 4 times, all that kind of stuff. And then he'll come and say, or she will say, here's what I've diagnosed. Here's the problem. Take 3 tablets a day of this prescription, and then the problem will go away. That is the person with the power in the conversation. So in sales, we need to think to ourselves, who's having most of the conversation in this meeting? And we need to figure out a way to talk less, ask more questions, and we need to get ourselves into the position where we can add a prescription at the end, and that is how to do good sales.
Is there listening, and is there listening?
Yeah, there's a guy by the name of Mark Golston who I love. He went on Ellen DeGeneres, and he came on my show, Business Titans, and he was talking about surgical empathy. I'll boil his story down very quickly. Therapist, dealt with very troubled individuals. He had someone that was a suicide risk come and see him in his office, and they engaged in the therapy relationship. And he was trying all the therapy tricks. He was trying to diagnose her and tell her what was wrong with her and tell her how to fix it and all that kind of stuff. And one day she was just at her wit's end, and she came into the office and she said, his name was Mark. She said, Mark, I'm done. Like, I've tried this therapy thing. I'm gonna, after this session, I'm just gonna go home and I'm gonna end it all. And he said all he could do was just shut up and lean in and say to her, you know what? If you were to do that, I could totally understand why, because of the situation you're in. And all I could say to you is that I'd miss you. And that was it. He said instantly she received this instant healing because someone actually heard her. Someone wasn't trying to fix her problem and tell her about all this stuff and all the knowledge and all the beautiful stuff that I've learned because I'm really smart. All she needed was for someone to hear her and listen. And he calls that surgical empathy. And so when this is what we need to apply, and this is what negotiation experts use, right? Hostage negotiation experts use surgical empathy, and he trains FBI agents on surgical empathy. But this is the thing that we need to develop in sales, is that surgical empathy to just stand there with customers. One of the multi-million deals that I did was with a chief risk officer of one of the top banks here in Australia. And I had to lean in to him and say, I won't say his name, but I said, let's call him Bob. I said, Bob, help me understand. You are probably one of the busiest people in this bank because your life is full of noise because everything's a risk. And if you take the risk out of life, you take the opportunity out of life. So Bob, help me understand, where is it that you feel that you're spending too much time that you shouldn't be? And before I asked that question, he's probably 70 years old, roughly. Again, one of these button-up down people, was looking, he was using those, because buyers go through negotiation techniques as well. He was, he's looking me up and down. He wouldn't look me directly in the eyes. He was looking like down at me, right? And when I asked that question, bang, he just opened up. His whole persona changed. He started looking at me in the eyes. He started telling me about the struggles that he was having. There was 4 critical projects that he absolutely needed help with that were burning a hole in his pocket. And then after he told me about those 4 programs, I was taking notes. And I said, okay, program number 1 you mentioned was this. Who do I need to speak to fix that for you? He gave me a name. Next problem. Okay, you mentioned this. Who do I need to speak that to fix that for you? We went down the list of 4 things. He gave me the 4 names. After the meeting, I sent him an email and I said, we'll call him Bob. I said, Bob, thank you so much for the time that we spent together. I understand that these are your 4 critical aspects that you want to talk about. I also understand that these are the 4 people that I should speak to help you with that. Thank you for your time. I did not email him again. All I did was forward that email one at a time to each of those individuals. Another guy, let's call him James. I sent that to James and I said, hey, James, Bob said we should talk. And I forwarded him the email trail. And then he said, okay, he accepted my meeting invite. And when I went out to see him on site, I reached out and shook his hand. And I said, we'll call him James. I said, James, thank you so much for meeting with me. And he said, well, I really had no choice when Bob asked me to meet with you, didn't I? And the funny thing about that, Greg, is that he never got asked to meet with me. He just saw my email trail and he thought, oh, this guy's had a conversation with my executive. If I ignore this guy, he's going to go back to the executive and say, hey, this guy's a muppet. He didn't show up for the meeting and he's going to get in trouble. So these are the sorts of things, when you listen properly, you could just make so much more impact to your clients. So if you're listening to this and you're the type of salesperson that's like learning all the words to say and you're trying to get out of the features and benefits, you're doing a disservice to your clients. The thing that they need is they need to be understood and you need to feel their pain. And if you can do that, you'll be so much more effective.
Mate, that's so cool. That's so brilliant. And it sort of goes on to the next part where a lot of these, like, it's perfect. Like, it just sort of, the way this is sort of unfolded, it's great because the people at that end, you mentioned, he's got big problems, but it sounds like he had no one to talk to about it. And you were the first person to reach out with him with empathy and just ask the right question, where a lot of these people are hiding things behind the scenes. They're trying to cope with stuff, but they don't, and sometimes these people got big egos. They don't have anywhere really to sort of vent this stuff to. Is that correct?
I've actually missed that question. It dropped out a little bit. Can you
So I was just
repeat?
saying that, some of these guys, that they've got all these big problems, but they don't have somewhere really to discuss them to. They can't. They've got these big egos and these big performances to do, and they've got these massive problems, but they don't. They hold them all inside, and they don't necessarily have other people to discuss these things to. They got massive problems, but they're all stuffed up inside their head in this stress pot because they don't have other people to have this empathetic conversation with. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's face it. The teams that report up into these individuals that are carrying the $1 million check, um, they're just disconnected. They're disconnected in a huge way. So there's another deal that I did with a huge insurance company. It was a cybersecurity solution, and I sat down with the chief information security officer. And I'll cut a long story short, but the first thing I said to him, well, one of the first things I said to him, we were catching up for coffee. I knew that I was 7 times more expensive than any competitor. So I can't sell small in this particular, like, it has to be multi-million-dollar deal minimum, right? And so I said to that individual, help me understand, when you make decisions, are you ticking the box, or do you really need someone to work with, like, day in, day out, to go through 300 lines of security vulnerability and to create a custom bespoke solution to make sure that you get the maximum protection? How do you make decisions here? And he said, no, we can't afford to tick the box. Like, we've got this huge brand and reputation, and we can't afford to we can't afford to cut corners here. Now, I knew he would say that because you can't be a multi-billion-dollar organization and cut corners and tick boxes. You can't do it. You have to do it properly or you get fired. So I knew that would be his answer, and I said to him, good. Now, the reason that I said that to you is because I'm going to be more 7 times more expensive than any competitor. So when you compare our proposal versus someone else's proposal, I'm already telling you we're going to be 7 times more expensive. But we're the only ones that are going to sit with you line by line and go through everything and make sure that you have the highest level of security posture. And he said, okay, understood. Now, the reason that's important is because when I actually went and tried to execute the rest of the deal with his team, because you got to understand, right? In these large deals, you've got multiple decision makers, multiple stakeholders. And so when I met with his head of security, when we went through the dance and we were competing with another company, he, the one under him, wanted to select our competitor because of cost. And I knew that would happen. And so I had to go back up to the executive and I said, hey, remember that conversation that we had where we talked about the cost and talked about, a great level of, well, it's happening. You're about to get a recommendation on your desk that is not to go with us. Is this something you can help me with? And he said, Oscar, don't worry about it. I'll fix it. Don't worry about it. I'll get it sorted for you. And we ended up doing about a $3.2 million deal all across Asia Pac to protect all of their all of their assets in the cloud, because I built that level of relationship. I listened. I wanted to understand how he made security decisions. I understood what was at stake for him if they were going to go and cut corners. And his team, who had this level of budget and was like, oh, well, if we spend the money on this, then we're going to lose things out of our other budget. The executive needed to go and find budget from somewhere else to pay us. And so we need to get in that business of listening, because sometimes the executive and their teams don't actually talk to one another. Sometimes they're getting recommendations that are wrong, and then the executive's making the wrong decision because they don't have time to get in the weeds. They don't have time to understand everything. Sometimes they're just going to trust their team to make they're going to trust their team to make the right decision, but the team can make the wrong decision. And so sometimes they need people like us, the trusted advisor, to sit down with them, be that trusted advisor, hear them out, play unbiased, and sometimes you're gonna have to walk away from deals, because if you're a trusted advisor, it means that you put the client first. And so sometimes you might have to
Yeah.
take a hit on the chin and go, you know what, this isn't the right solution for you. I did this the other day with one of our clients. I was asking him, what do you need? And he downloaded something from our certification program. And after asking a few questions, I just said to him, you know what, the certification program isn't for you. Like I understand that you wanted to look at it, but it's not the program for you. What you need is X, Y, Z, right? So we need to be in the business of going, what we need to do what's right for the customer.
Mate, I hear it so many times, but what you pointed to there was something that's very, very poignant, and it's the one thing that I think sets the best from the rest, and it's the word relationship. And it's the long-time value stuff, because if you have a relationship, you have LTV.
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
And do you think that I mean, I'm sort of probably biased this way. Is I think it's some people have got it, some people haven't. You can learn it to a certain point, but I think there's some people who are just naturally relationship people, and they see that it's the sales secondary to the point about the relationship. Is that, can you learn this stuff?
I think you can learn it, but I don't think you can be taught it. Meaning that, I believe that life will teach you the same lesson until you learn it properly. And so there are some individuals that were raised in a certain way, but roughly by the age of 7, we form the way that we look at the world, and we have this ideology that we approach the world with. And so, usually it's very hard to get out of that sort of personality construct. But I also believe in personality development and neuroplasticity, and we can become whoever it is that we want to be. And we all have this incredible potential within us. So we can learn it, but hearing it, even if someone is that sort of selfish sales rep and they hear this, they're going to be put to the test at a certain point, and they're going to have to decide, am I going to put the customer first here, or am I going to put my own needs here? And they might decide to put their own needs first. And so we can learn it, but it comes with making the decision when it's most crucial, when you're faced with the situation, and you need to go past you need to go back into your previous knowledge bank and previous experiences and the things you've heard and your ethics and your morals and what's best practice. And then, but you've got this bill to pay, so you need to sell this thing, or maybe your sales manager's breathing down your neck, and so you've got to hit that quota. It's not a simple thing, but I do think that people can learn it.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe you can learn it. Some people just can't. But yeah, so I agree with that. What's some of the biggest mistakes people make in sales?
I believe I think there's 2 things. I think the first thing we've kind of covered, which is that insecurity piece, overthinking to themselves too much, or being too self-centered and all that kind of stuff. What that leads to is what I think is the biggest mistake, is not dealing with executives or not dealing at the right level. So many times I see people getting boxed into these single point relationships, and an individual moves on from an organization and they're left out in the cold. I turned around a very large technology, household brand name technology company. They neglected their enterprise business, completely neglected it. Actually, I've worked with a few companies like that have neglected their enterprise business and neglected their customers. And I had to come in and rescue relationships. Like one of these relationships was at one of the I'm trying to make sure that I keep confidence and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing an engagement with a security company. This security company provided cybersecurity services to let's call them a tier one telco. The tier one telco was white labeling their services and putting them out to market. They brought me in to rescue that relationship, because that relationship was worth $10 million a year. and they brought me in to rescue it because it was in troubled waters. And when I got in, all I started doing was listening to this tier one telco and asking questions about the history. So tell me about your history with this XYZ company. You know, I'm responsible for the entire business here. Tell me what's going on. And they said, you know, we feel neglected. We feel like we're the biggest customer that you have, but you're taking all the money that we're paying you and you're going and building an international business. I feel like you're not innovating with us anymore. We don't have an account manager. We don't have any sense of relationship. And actually, we're on the verge of leaving. And I this was a virtual call. This is during COVID.
Yeah.
And I leaned into the camera. I put my hand on my chest. And let's call him Luke. I put my hand on my chest and I said, Luke, I am so disheartened to hear that. I am truly aggrieved that this company, and again, I was representing this company. I said that this company has made you feel like that. I said, I've got experience. No, actually, I said to him first, I said, what's your experience like with governing these sorts of relationships between these two large organizations? And he said to me, actually, that's something that we don't do very well. We don't do governance very well. And I said to him, Luke, I have deep experience in governing relationships with companies like yours. I've governed relationships with some of the largest banks in Australia. How about you let me deploy a governance model to build that bridge and a relationship together so that we can move forward together? Luke, give me one chance to do this, and I'll make sure that we build a good relationship together and that you feel like we're investing in you. And he said, let's do it. Fast forward 3 months, he's now doing a testimonial video for us to present to our shareholders. So I'm talking, it's not just like, you know how like these high ticket coaches get testimonial videos to put on their website. Like it wasn't that. It was this is press release stuff. Like and he's a executive at a company that has legal obligations to not release any videos. So if he wants to release a video, he's got to go through marketing, he's got to go through legal, he's got to get sign off from his executive. And I mean, we're talking enterprise here. This isn't just, you know, some guy doing a selfie video and go, hey, I did this thing with Oscar. Like this is serious stuff. And he did a video, a very professional video, and he thanked the organization for investing in that relationship. And so, I mean, I believe that relationship has to be our unfair advantage. We have to, and the only way we can build relationship is through listening to people and really caring. Like don't be an asshole. Like really listen to them and stop thinking about, stop thinking about the money that you have to make or the sale that you have to make, and just truly be there for people. And man, your career will soar for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, mate, that's brilliant. I can absolutely have you. I can talk for hours with you about this because the synchronicity, the value in what you do, the type of person you have. I think there's so much value in people listening to this. Me being an ex-banker, and all that kind of stuff. And, I've seen a lot of that stuff. What you speak there is so. Some in alignment with how the best operates. So, mate, I'm very much thankful for being on here. Tell us about, have you got any programs coming up? How can people reach out to you, contact you? Give us a bit of a detail of what's going on around you right now.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for reminding me. So I've got an event coming up on the 22nd of August, just released today, actually, which is how to 3x your sales with AI and EQ. EQ stands for emotional intelligence, and AI. Everybody should know what AI stands for. So I've got that event coming up. We're running sales certifications with our sales methodology. So, sales methodologies that people use aren't actually methodologies, they're tools. And so what we've actually built is a full-on recipe for success in enterprise sales, executive selling, opening doors, closing deals, negotiation, all that kind of stuff. And so, we're running certification programs for enterprise sales execs, which people are really enjoying. So if people want more information, they can email me at oscar@oscar-chavez.com or go to oscar-chavez.com. or you can go to growthlygroup.com.
I'll put all those links underneath anyway, right? So Oscar will give them to me, and I'll give out those links in the description anyway if you want to get a hold of him. But mate, I've loved this conversation. This has been so cool. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I'm so incredibly grateful for saying yes to this. And I would love to have you on again, but I think this has been a really good conversation about how a certain type of person works and what needs to be a standard across the board in that that high end sales area. So mate, thank you for being part of this.
I've enjoyed it too. Thank you so much, Greg, for your time.
Pleasure. So guys, I'll put those details down below. If you want to get a hold of Oscar, seriously, he's the best of the best. He doesn't know, I used to work at Optus too, so I probably worked at him in Optus in different areas, both be on reality TV shows. We're probably a brother from another mother, but well, how's that? Two Optus employees be on reality shows. It's weird. So I was at 367 Collins Street in Melbourne. So
nice.
Yeah, but mate, thank you very much. And yes, reach out to him because he is so good at what he does. And I think you can see from this that he is authentic, he's honest, and he does get the results you need. So reach out to him, and I will see you on the next podcast of The One.